Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5 Minute Reedmaker. Listen, if you're watching this on YouTube, would you go ahead and click subscribe and maybe even notify? That way you always know when I drop a new episode. And it also makes it easier for other people to find my channel and therefore to become better, faster reed makers and happier musicians. So, everybody wins. Thank you so much. Today I want to talk about mandrels, but not actually about mandrels themselves. I have a video about mandrels themselves, but I wanted to talk about how to use your mandrel, how to hold on to your mandrel. And I know that sounds silly, like what is complicated? It's just a thing and you grab it. But I've had several conversations recently with people who are struggling to hold on to the mandrel, who are struggling with like managing their grip of the mandrel and the reed and the thread and the cane all at once, or who are using the mandrel for scraping but aren't comfortable with what they're doing. And I just have a couple of ideas to share. One of these ideas absolutely broke open the whole winding process for one of my reed club members. We work over Zoom, so we never it is of course possible to see people's hands over Zoom, but this particular thing, this very basic skill of holding onto the mandrel while you're winding a reed, didn't occur to anybody as something that needed to be addressed. But we had a conversation about it, and then we did some demonstrations, and we realized that she was overcomplicating the process, and there was an easier way. Now, I know this seems super straightforward, right? It's a mandrel. There's nothing to it. You grab it, you put the staple on, you grab it, it's fine. But my reed club participant was having a lot of trouble both holding the mandrel and supporting the cane on the staple. And that makes sense to me, actually, because I'm also a woman with small hands, and I can't hold this and also get my fingers up here with any kind of sensitivity and actually support all of this in the way that it is meant to be supported. It's not physically possible for me to hold on to both the mandrel and the staple and the cane. But my participant felt like this was the obligation. And so after we had some discussion, and I had never thought about this either, right? I just do it the way that works for me. But here's how I do this. The mandrel does live in here for support. It's supporting the staple so that my, extra strong pulling of thread doesn't warp the metal. And it's also just sort of giving me a nicer, bigger thing to have. But what I'm actually holding on to at the beginning of my winding process is only the cane. I've got 2 fingers on the cane. I'm holding it in its placement on the staple, just like I want. And the mandrel is, if anything, just resting against my hand. There's no tension here. When I start to wind, throw a few winds on. And after I have those few winds on, now the thread is holding the cane. And so my hand can slide down a little bit and just be holding this in such a relaxed way. The mandrel isn't going anywhere. I do not need to grip it. I do not need to hold on to it. The staple doesn't want to jump off of it. Everything here is allowed to be easy. So, I'll jimmy my cane around like we do, make sure that it's straight up, and just watch as I finish this reed how untense and uninvolved this left hand is. I've just sort of got the mandrel resting in my hand with no grip. The tension that the place where I am engaging tension is right here, because I'm using this finger to pull the thread, to pull the reed away from my table, and this hand to pull my thread away from my reed. But these fingers holding onto the mandrel aren't doing anything. All the mandrel is giving me support, but that's all. There's no effort going on here. I've never had difficulty with my hands cramping up as I wind, because I'm just not holding on to anything that tightly. So I'll throw a knot on this. Okay, and next I would like to talk with you about another way that people often use mandrels. When I'm scraping, I don't use a mandrel because, again, woman, small hands, no problem. So I like to have my reed sort of resting in my hand like so, and my fingers will just sort of close around it just to like keep it in place, but all of the actual tension and energy of reed making for me is between my first finger and my thumb of my reed holding hand. My right hand isn't gripping the knife really tightly, I'm just sort of rotating with it. My left hand isn't like clenching anything, I'm just sort of holding on. This is how I scrape on a reed. But I've spoken with plenty of people who feel like they need more support than that and need to have something to hold on to a little bit better. And so they like to use a mandrel. And okay, here's why it doesn't work for me, and I'm not saying it won't work for you. This doesn't work for me because I feel like with this big old bulky thing in the way, I can't get the reed into the position that I need it to be in. I can't sort of access the part of the reed I want to work on because I can't rotate the reed past the heel of my hand. Like I just can't make it fit. So suddenly my fingers feel like they're kind of sticking out in thin air, and I've got this like weird, uncomfortable situation with my index finger. None of this works for me, but for some people it does. And if that is you, if you are comfortable scraping with a mandrel in your hand, great, no problem at all. Two things that I've seen be really helpful for people are, one, for a person who really does have very large hands and just needs a little more comfort than this will allow. I've seen people wrap their mandrel handle with tape, with foam, with like cushiony material to make it larger and make it fit for them. And if that is you, terrific, I welcome it. But the other thing that I found really helpful for people, and a lot of times they haven't thought of it for themselves first, is this: if the mandrel provides support by basing itself on a solid surface like this here table, then maybe it frees up your hand to focus up here at the top of the reed where it needs to be without feeling like you have to hold on to so much, without either feeling like you have to cramp your hands around a tiny reed or that you have to like hold on to this and also have your fingers reach all the way to the top. If the mandrel is supportive thusly, then maybe you can get your fingers up here to just focus on the area you need to work on. And it gives you more stability than having to manage everything inside your hand. Again, this is not the way that I work with a mandrel, but it is something that I have seen to work for students of mine, for people that I have worked with, because not everybody has the same hands. Not everybody has the same body. It's okay to make your tools work for you. This has been a 5-Minute Reedmaker lesson. You can follow these short videos here on YouTube. You can subscribe if you wish. I hope you will. And if you need to reach me to order reeds or cane or a copy of my book, The Happiest Musician, or to ask me a question that I can answer in a future 5-Minute Reedmaker episode, you can find me at jennetingle.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.